says government's decision to impose taxes on condoms as the most unfortunate decision ever taken by a government of the Republic of Ghana.
I mean, HIV/AIDS. Ghana has got a commission. We have done so well, brought down the prevalent rate, and we are doing well in the sub-region. One of the important tools in the fight against HIV is condom. Let's not kid with it. So why would you want to put an obstacle in the main tool that is used in the fight against HIV? And how much money are you going to make out of it?
On today's big story, we speak to all stakeholders on whether the move to tax condoms is necessary at all. My name is Bright Nana Amfu, and the show is brought to you by Blue Rose Limited, Shelter for All, as well as Star Life Assurance. Let's get into action. The NPP has launched a fresh attack on the Mahama administration, and now it is describing it as unproductive, lacking foresight, and insensitive to the plight of the ordinary Ghanaian. The group also described government decision to impose taxes on condoms as the most unfortunate decision ever taken by any government. The NPP was reacting to government's recent decision to increase taxes across the board in order to revive the economy. They were speaking at a press conference in Accra.
So if I impose taxation in the financial sector, first of all, it's an area what I do, I will get the money because they are making the money. When everybody's profit was around 15-20%, the banks were between 80 and 100%. So we introduced some taxation. So we are saying that it is important that the government looks at areas the government imposes the taxation. Those areas should be areas which will not hurt in the long run the economy. By all means, businesses must pay taxes. But if your taxes will kill that business, then what do you tax? You tax profitability. So if my profit dwindles to zero, you're not going to have anything to tax. So you must be very, very careful when you talk about taxation. It must never, never dwindle your profitability. Otherwise, you are killing the hen that lays the golden egg. I mean, HIV/AIDS. Ghana has got a commission. We have done so well, brought down the prevalent rate, and we are doing well in the sub-region. One of the important tools in the fight against HIV is condom. Let's not kid with it. So why would you want to put an obstacle in the main tool that is used in the fight against HIV? And how much money are you going to make out of it? Look elsewhere and tax, but certainly not to create a problem for the control of HIV.
I think they don't have a clue. Because I wonder why, for instance, a minister for finance can come to the ministry to parliament to impose taxes on condoms. He will come in here and say that he wants to increase the price on chalawati, which is for the poor. Why will he come in to say that he's going to impose taxes on things that really affect the poor? It's mind-boggling.
And of course, we will be getting from all angles exactly what this means. In the studio is a member of the economic team of the NPP and also a member of parliament for Obuasi West. Welcome. Thank you. You're not against government drive at raising revenue?
No, we can't be.
What is your problem then?
Well, but you must raise revenue in a way that achieves good objectives. You raise revenue to provide services. But when, as we have now, government decides to embark on this unbridled taxation as a way of addressing fiscal gaps, that is to say, what government considers to be its own like brokenness,
right?
Then there's a problem, because you government say you are broke, and therefore you are taxing business, you are taxing individuals. Are they not broke? That is a question you must first consider. 2, our press conference today was a continuation of what we did last week. Last week, we did focus on the economy, the broad macroeconomic management strategies of this administration. We highlighted the escalating debt and how government isn't managing domestic borrowing and all that well. what we did today and what we'll be doing subsequently is to demonstrate how that mismanagement at the macroeconomic level is transcending into the everyday welfare of people. And today we're focusing on employment. We're saying that when government borrows so much that the private sector cannot borrow because lending rates go up, the banks are saying, well, when government comes to me, they borrow at very high rates, and that brings us a lot of profit. So what is my motivation as a company for lending to you at lower rates? So lending rates have gone up, businesses cannot borrow. If we expect businesses to be the engine of growth, and this is something the NDC, the NPP, everybody seems to have indicated in their manifestos, that the private sector ought to be the engine of growth, we are asking, why would you want to cripple your engine of economic growth? And so government...
Through taxation.
Through taxation, through inadequate investments into utility services, so that you have a dumso that affects the cocoa and the kose seller, it affects the ice kenke seller, it affects the mechanic that uses electricity, and then you bring more poverty because people are denied their livelihoods. So the point we're making to government that if you're broke, go to the basics. Ask yourself, where did you get it wrong? And we think government over expenditures, especially in 2012, were unwarranted. We're reaping the consequences of that. What government ought to do is to say, I have repented of my unacceptable borrowing habit quickly, and therefore I am looking within the Auditor General's report, as we have always known, and I should be careful to indicate that here we're not just talking about this administration, it's a traditional thing. But this is the time for government to say, the rot that happened, that is uncovered by Auditor General reports will be addressed. We're saying government must go after the money the court say they should go after. We're saying that government must cut costs internally.
And that should reduce the taxes.
It is when government has done that, that government will have...
Briefly concentrate on this issue of condoms. I'll get back to what you're driving. But let me go back to the phone lines and speak to the country director of Marie Stopes International, Madame Faustina Finyami, and she just joined this discussion. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, government talk about imposing taxes on condoms. Your organization deals with women, preventing pregnancies and all that. Precisely, how did this come to you when you got the information?
Well, I think it's quite unfortunate that the government, if they do decide to actually impose these taxes on condoms, clinics like ourselves, we give out condoms freely to clients, and depending on how much the tax is, are we going to have to start charging clients for these condoms? And these condoms are for vulnerable people. These are for, girls who are not necessarily able to afford condoms, or teenage boys who can't afford condoms. And we're a nation that wants people to have healthy sexual practices. And this will be another barrier for people to access condoms and to practice safe sex. This worries me greatly, and it worries me for teenagers and vulnerable people and people who just can't afford condoms.
How would you react to some assertions being raised by, for instance, the ruling government, the National Women's Organizer, is arguing that when the prices of condoms are up, then people will refrain from buying it, and so will also refrain from engaging in sexual habits. How would you react to that?
I think that it's the reverse. We will see HIV increasing, STIs increasing, unintended pregnancies increasing, which cost the government far more than letting women and men access free condoms. I think that to me, it's unfortunate in her thinking.
Now, in terms of the taxes on condoms, for your work involves women. How important, when it comes to the issue of taking care of STIs, HIV/AIDS, and other sexually transmitted diseases, condoms use, how important is it in terms of preventing diseases?
is paramount. It's absolutely paramount. A woman could have another form of family planning or another contraception, but if her partner or her aunt in a monogamous relationship, or that they're not maybe using condoms and so forth, it's very, very possible to get any of the STIs. So it's crucial that, condoms be available and be available to all different, cadre of people in society. We have condoms that are rather expensive and certain people buy them, and then we have ones that are kind of middle for, people who can afford those. Then we have ones that are free, which are unlocalized normally, and Ghana Health Service, are really good at making sure that these are available for the, low income and people who can't afford. And those are the people I'm most worried about, commercial sex workers, people that actually, without them using condoms, they are putting their lives and the whole of society lives at risk.
Just hold on the line. Let me try and speak to the National Women's Organizer of the NDC, who is made some arguments about the fact that I'm told that she's yet to get onto the phone lines. But now the issue is government decision to tax these condoms. We're told that, like you're saying, it's going to affect, for instance, the work you do. What should civil society do in this direction? Hello, Madam Faustina.
Yes.
Are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Right. Now, I'm asking that this is government decision. Now, how should civil society respond to this decision to tax condoms?
Well, I think that we should make a case to government that actually this is going to have the reverse of what they're wanting. They want to increase tax revenues and so forth. This would not actually bring in the appreciable amount that they're looking for. There's other ways to actually tax, but not through this, because this is actually a worldwide strategy to bring HIV, STIs, unwanted pregnancy, and to also make sure that the youth have healthy sexual practice. I think this is so contrary to all the things that a country that really cares for its people would do. It's completely contrary. And I think civil society, as people are hearing about this, are surprised, angered, shocked, and people will want to react to this. I don't think that civil society will sit there and not advise the government. And I think that we have a government that will listen to its people. So we will be making sure that the government hears the possible complications that could arise out of this kind of decision and see where we can move forward.
Thank you so much for speaking to me. Faustina Fian-Nyame is the country director of Marie Stopes International, talking on the issue of taxes on condoms. Let me come back to the studio. Now, the issue precisely is about raising revenue. I was asking earlier that the minorities' argument is not against raising revenue by government. The government, you said earlier that the government is broke, the economy is not doing well. Now, government wants to raise money. You seem to be against it.
Well, when the economy is broke, the first thing you do is to go to the basics and to ask yourself, why are we where we are? Then you can deal with the root causes. If because you say you're broke today, you decide to go to the ordinary people to tax them, forgetting that the ordinary people are also broke, then I don't know what you mean when you say you are managing the economy. The focus has been, to some extent, on condoms. But let's face it, the real point we're making is that the special duty levy is not just on condoms. It is on a wide range of items, that
including chalewote and all that you mentioned,
and some items that serve as input items for manufacturing.
Right.
And what we are saying is that this is not how to create jobs. When the engine of growth, the manufacturers of jobs,
you tax them.
You're taxing them. You're not treating them well simply because you need money.
Right. Hold it right there again. Let me also speak to Mr. Rashid Purple, Minister of State in charge of public-private partnership. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to us on today's big story. Now, taxes on condoms, taxes on chalewote, taxes on almost everything. Is that how you would describe government's decision at raising revenue?
Well, this is a decision, a policy decision by government.
Right.
And it's subject to public reaction. And so I think that, what is happening is to reflect the need for us to, be ready to bear our own cross in this country. You understand that every time we go out there to ask for money from one country or the other, and we are able to get it either in the form of grants or loans, is because the taxpayers have been willing to go the extra length to partner their government to provide what they provide for us. And when we go out there and we see beautiful things and we see streets well done, and we come back and tell stories about wonderful cities, it is because taxpayers are willing to be taxed so that they can use that money to develop themselves. So at the moment, we have to begin to understand the workings of the economy and know that taxes make the difference.
Right.
Women, yes.
You just hold the line for me. Let me speak to the National Women's Organizer of the NDC. She's been making some very interesting comments on the issue to tax condoms. Madam Anita D'Souza, thanks so much for joining today's big story. Now, you think that taxing condoms will simply ensure that, well, the guys who want to engage in sex will not do it because they cannot afford to buy condoms. Is that what you think?
Thank you very much. Good evening to your listeners. First of all, we need to know what tax is all about.
Right.
It is a levy that is compulsory, placed on us by law in order to raise revenue for public services. And every government is entitled to raise enough money in order to have infrastructure in the system. But if you watch carefully, our expenditure is more than the revenue that we are getting in this country. And we also know that with tax, some taxes are imposed just to restrict people in patronizing certain items like alcohol, tobacco. So on Monday, I was on a program when I said that I do agree with the government if they impose more taxes on condoms. My dear brother, we need to bring sanity into the system. If you have a partner, you need to stay with your partner.
Right.
That's why I said they should impose more taxes on condoms.
The counter-argument is that then people cannot afford it, and so then they want to do it without the condoms, and that means diseases and all kinds of things.
In life, at times you may wish to have something, but you not get it. Most of the time, men do think that it's only women who are prostitutes. It's not true. Because if you're a man and you have about 4 girlfriends, then you are also termed as a prostitute. Because if you're a man, you need to give respect to your own body. Because some people have not taken this into consideration. You can meet a woman where at the end of the day it will destroy your life. You can also meet a man where at the end of the day you will succeed in life. So to me, I still stand by where I am, that we need to bring sanity into the system. After all, people can choose to take it or to leave it. But I think that our body is the temple of God and we need to check it right.
And so in checking it right, when we are unable to afford it, we can do without it.
If you have a partner, why do you want to use a condom?
Well, sometimes
if you know you are not ready, don't go in for it.
Sometimes you, by the nature of us being human beings.
My brother, if you are not ready, don't go in for it. To me, I think this will bring sanity into the system. If you have a partner, stay with your partner. Do you know that even some people who are married at times use condom? Why? Because you choose to go out with other people.
Right.
So do you think that the condom will bring 100% sanity into the system? No. To me, let's prevent sexual activities. We should always be with our partners. And I think, to me, if you do this, sanity will prevail.
Right. Thank you so much, Madam Anita D'Souza, National Women's Organizer of the NDC. Mr. Rashid Peppel, if you're still on the line, now Kwaku Quartey is with me in the studio, a member of the NPP economic team. Now, he thinks that if we need to raise revenue, the right thing to do is to go back to clear the corruption. to get back what government has lost by way of Judgment Day. He just said it. How would you react to that?
Well, there's a point to which I can agree that corruption in every society is a drainage to the resources of the society. And if you want to tax the people, or if you are taxing the people, you prove that with a tax you can build a nation. And I'm happy to note that His Excellency John Mahama is very serious about that. He has called for investigation into some losses that we are apparent losses that we are observing, and he has also set up an ethics. He has also launched the book of ethics for members of government, and etc. etc. These are initiatives to ensure that we convince the people of Ghana that the money they are going to put in the form of tax, will be taken care of.
Mr. Rashid Pepo, you are the Minister of State in charge of public-private partnership. Now, the NPP thinks that the private sector is dying. The taxes are killing them. What has the private sector been telling you in your interaction with them?
The private sector have an open relation with the president. The president is the chairman of the Private Sector Advisory Council. And just last week, we had a meeting with him, and they presented their problems to him. One of the problems was not that there was too much tax. If they think that there is too much tax, I'm sure they would inform the president about it.
So they've not told you about the fact that there is too much taxation? They've not told you anything?
That if they see it to be a problem, I'm sure they will have a way of informing the president, because the president is open. He's the chairman of the council. He's had a meeting with them in October. We are going to have another meeting. And so I don't think that it's anything to be conjectured by a minister.
Is the private sector comfortable from where you're sitting as a Minister of State in charge of?
I won't be able to say. Is the private sector who will voice what is happening to them.
Has government made the business environment conducive for the private sector? Has your government
is initiating measures to ensure that the business environment is conducive for private sector development? We are initiating and we are rolling out the private sector development strategy program 2, and very soon you will see activities going on. Thursday we are going to have a validation of a scoping exercise we have done, and subsequently we are going to see targeted programs at making the business environment conducive for business, and creating situations that will enable businesses to grow, and even creating kinds of linkages that will help them link up with bigger companies to develop in ways that will create jobs and improve the livelihood of our people. So government is at it. We are determined to make sure that we streamline the operations for private sector. We single them out to let them be the leaders of the next round of Ghana's development towards our march towards achieving middle income status, higher middle income status. So we are committed to doing that, and we will ensure that we create a needed environment so that tax will not bog them down. Tax will just be one passing by event.
Right. Thank you so much for talking to me. Mr. Rashid Pepo is Minister of State in charge of private-public partnership. Now, he thinks that the private sector is at least okay because they've not told the president anything.
Well, the private sector is definitely not okay. We have heard from the Association of Ghana Industries, and I hold in my hand the results of a survey conducted by the Association of Ghana Industries for the first quarter of 2013. And if you look at the things that to them hinder business, the first is poor power supply, and then access to credit, what I was discussing a while ago. Then depreciation of the cedi, because when the cedi depreciates, it makes your imports very expensive. And then the high level of taxation. So if we want to listen to our private sector address their concern, that would be good. But if we pretend that we don't know that they produce these services, and I'm sure government have people who have access to this kind of information, then I can understand why some of the policy interventions have turned out to be what they have been. Now, a quick one in response to the taxation on condoms. The NDC women organizer, a lady I admire very much, has made the point that that tax has become necessary as a way of checking
our behavior.
Promiscuity.
Right.
I think what if this is the kind of thinking that goes into formulating government policy, then it's unfortunate because you see, condom is also a tool.
Maybe that's her own opinion, not necessarily that of government. Government perhaps is looking at raising revenue, but she thinks that let's put it there and stop some of us from being promiscuous.
No, but you see, she speaks as a women's organizer for the NDC, and I'm sure you called her because of her position. I am sure she's been having discussions because it's party that feeds government. But quickly,
let me listen to what the public is saying about this particular issue. I'll come back to you to wrap up. So, Ghanaians been talking about this particular issue of taxes on condoms. Let's listen to them.
Me like this, I'm a self-employment. I do my own business, and imagine going there and buying something today and tomorrow you'll tell me they have increased it. It affects me a lot.
It goes a long way to affect us because once there's increase in all these things, it affects fuel, food, transport, everything, and it makes cost of living very high.
My problem is that only few of Ghanaians are the ones paying all the big taxes. If it's going to be done, then it should cut across. Everybody has to, pay some of the taxes.
How can you put tax on condom? Condom that, do you know what condoms help? Condoms is something that, those who don't even have money can get it for free.
For me, I think it's really ridiculous. We should look at other areas where we can tax, because I don't see why you should tax condoms.
We are trying so hard involving people to use condom because the HIV is becoming higher and higher. So if we tax the condoms and all those things, it means that people are going to refrain from using the condoms. And if it happens like that, then it's not good for.
Right, so a lot more of you have also spoken, but let me wrap up with Kweku. Now, you were landing on the point of
taxation on condoms. I was making the point that there are married people who use condom as a family planning tool. Doctors are telling you can have a baby every year, so you need to space up. And if people use condoms for such legitimate purposes, and you want to tax it simply because some other persons you expect to adhere to some values are not doing it, then it's unfortunate. I think this particular policy is something government should reconsider. I generally do so. But broadly, the point we made today, which I would like to emphasize as a way of closing, is that we want jobs created. That is the only way we can limit poverty. And in order to get jobs created, the private sector are our engine of growth.
Right.
We want government to understand their concerns, to help them create jobs so unemployed people can get jobs to do. But if government thinks it is broke, and therefore it would use its state power to task, which is a kind of bullying, to bully the private sector, get more money from them, get more money from individuals, even on condoms, then the government is not acting for the people, and that is our concern.
Kweku, thanks so much.
Thank you
for joining me on today's Big Story. And of course, I'll be telling you more about what the people have told us also on social media. Let the cameras quickly go to my screen there and show you exactly what we have by way of the social media platform. Now, the Big Story was asking of the taxes on condoms, and a lot of you here have the comment. Now, Isahakubi Benny says, so where is CJ in the face of all these killer taxes? And then Nanahima Opokuwari says, the NPP, they are robbing the people. And then Northern Governor says, we, the citizens of this country, demand the fall of this NDC regime now. And then Willie Moore says, the NPP is worried because most of them, sorry, you have to be careful about some of the things you write. And then Welbeko Frimpong says, this is serious. Then now we have it raw. Well, I don't know what you mean by raw. And then Kweku Dazi says, hey, Ghana Pani. You're worried, definitely. And then PJ Gates Isaac, you said, then I'm not going to use CD anymore. Wrong, Kwa. Be careful. Be careful. Isaac, be careful. And then Fafali Enyona Magbesi said, stop judging him. Martin Aluta Dosu, you said, I think this world will rather increase the population. And then Fano Myopia says, indiscriminate childbirth and increase in STDs. And then Obed Ofori, right, the effect is obvious. Even when condoms were free, we did not have 100% usage by the target population. Cases of STIs will, of course, shoot up. That is what you think. And then Salom Ajido says, I think condoms should be subsidized. Of course, you want to subsidize so that you can have more. And then El Dolasia Delabi says, if the ladies will allow you to use raw deer, I don't know what you want to say, but I'm confused about what you're trying to say. And then a lot more. Ada Zumiki said, teenage pregnancies to shoot up. And then Bokovi Roland would not comment. And Dansun Manuel says, if these taxes go through, then Ghanaians should be prepared for a high prevalence rate cost. Even at this current price, look at the patronage, blah, 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 blah. You have a lot more issues on this particular issue of taxes on condoms. Thanks so much, and I'm sure I have briefed you enough on today's big story. The show was brought to you by Blue Rose Limited, Shelter for All, and Star Life. We have more on the Joy News channel. Go to myjoyonline.com and you have more updates on the issue you heard here. My name is Bright Nanamfo. Good afternoon and see you later on.